Hi everyone. Today we're going to be going over No Regrets for Our Youth by Akira Kurosawa. Um, this movie is based on historical events, but it says in the very beginning that the characters are all fictional in this story. Um, One of the interesting things about this movie is how it starts off so quaint. It really honestly seems like it's headed in the direction of being almost like a cute love story, just set in this time period in Japan. Maybe touching on the historical events, but there's almost underlying like feelings that it's just gonna follow more of like the slice of life feeling for people that were just alive during this period in Japan. Um, but honestly, one of my favorite things about this movie is the fact that it starts to fall pretty heavily into those historical events. It's one of those things where it's honestly like it's a beautiful story and everything, but it's really troubling to imagine that there were people that were dealing with these sorts of things at this period in Japan. The story is basically following along with fascism taking over during this era. You can see that there's basically schools that are being affected by it. It seems like most political things are being affected by it. And like one of the main storylines is how it's following along with this professor who's been basically removed from the school because he's not willing to follow like the ideology that's trying to be forced on them. There's also a lot of students that are doing similar things. You can see a lot of students are basically uprising. They're forming almost like committees where they're trying to thwart the efforts of the fascists during that time. Um, and yeah, it's like harrowing to imagine that there were people that were dealing with these sorts of things during that era in Japan. Um, Although they are fictional characters in this, you can obviously imagine that people were actually dealing with these sorts of things. So yeah, it's just really troubling to imagine that. So one of the things that's going on right now is one of the main characters, Ito Kawa. Um, he's basically a prosecutor for the fascists, which you can see throughout the movie that this obviously causes a lot of issues where he didn't start that way. He was just one of the students and everything in the very beginning of the story, but then they skip forward 5 years and um, yeah, he's involved with that group and yeah, he's basically a prosecutor for them. So um, yeah, there's a lot of basically inner turmoil that's occurring during the story, and it leads up to the end where basically he was a lot closer with the people whenever it was at the beginning of the story, but then yeah, he ends up kind of becoming distanced with those relationships. Um, so one of my favorite overall things about this story is the main character Yuki. Um, she starts off, and she's the main reason that I thought that this story was going to be a lot more quaint and kind of a love story because it's almost in the very beginning like very whimsical. It seems like it's just kind of touching on like her wanting to pursue like the beauty in life, and she's not really even directly like wanting to take part in any of the political discussions. There's even a part in the very beginning where she outright refuses to like have conversations about it. She basically deems it like boring. Um, but throughout the story, she not only grows to become a part of this movement against fighting the fascism and everything, but she starts to play a pivotal part. Uh, One of the main characters, his name is Noge, and he, from the very beginning, is fighting it like a lot more like heavy-minded. Like he's definitely like completely involved in it. Like even from the very beginning, like he's basically upset at the fact that nobody is like actively fighting these efforts and everything. So throughout the movie, he basically becomes a lot more established and actively fighting it, which is really interesting because one of the things about the beginning is that he comes off like kind of like bullheaded and I don't know, almost like stern, which he's a student, so you would imagine that he would be like kind of more so like trying to have fun and like hanging out with his friends and stuff, but he more so seems like troubled by what's going on. So, um, I think as the story goes on, he is not only a lot more like likable in the fact that you respect him a lot more, but he plays a huge role in this movie, and he's one of my favorite characters. Um, he's really willing to completely go the distance in order to protect the things that he loves and the things that he likes to basically pursue what he imagines to be right. So it's really easy to respect a character like that, and he's really likable and everything. During this point in the story, you can see that they've captured Yuki and Noge, and both of them are being held in jail. Basically, they found out that Noge was in essence a spy for the opposition to the fascists. So um, yeah, and then as you can just see, it was announced that basically he died in his cell. Uh, Yuki's dad, the professor, he was basically coming to try and be his lawyer. He wanted to basically help protect him and everything, but it was revealed that he had unfortunately died in his cell. So, which makes you kind of start to question whether or not they were natural causes or maybe he was killed in his cell, which is again very troubling. Just imagining that those kinds of things can exist in the world. Um, so basically, the story after it skipped the 5 years, it skips ahead another 3 years, and Yuki and Noge had become reunited in Tokyo. And uh, Yuki had said earlier in the story that she was interested in becoming married to Noge. And there's actually one of my favorite lines in this movie, which was showed earlier, as she basically said that if she was married to Noge, that her life would burn so brightly that she would become blinded by it, which is honestly a very like passionate line to say, and it's one of my favorite lines that's even said in this movie. So, but you can definitely tell that she has deep feelings and deep respect for Noge and basically his pursuit of justice. Um, where Yuki had moved to, yeah, it's basically revealed that something secretive is going on. He never directly reveals what he's doing, but I believe it's the fascist police. It's not really like directly stated who exactly it is that takes him into custody, but they do the same to Yuki, and then obviously he dies in his cell. So after that happens, and during this part of the story, basically Yuki told her parents that she wanted to go to Noge's parents, which Noge had revealed. One of the things that's going on whenever she shows up is you can see that their house has been uh, basically vandalized. Now that everybody thinks that Noge is a spy, that kind of extends to his parents as well, where it's painted on their house that like they're a family of spies. You can see that people have broken in. They had to board up like their front door. There's a hole in the side of their house where it looks like people have tried breaking in. Um, so yeah, Yuki goes ahead and offers help. They are rice farmers, so she helps them. Basically, she helps the mom to plant rice paddies and everything. Um, which honestly, you respect her a lot because during one part she actually becomes sick. So um, obviously, it's not easy work and everything. At this point in the story, also, everything as far as the fascism is related has been reversed. Things are back to normal. Yuki's father has returned as being the professor of the university. And then everything that Noge said about people basically actually thanking him after people learned about the events that happened, that becomes true. The villagers respect Yuki a lot more. And so, yeah, it's honestly a great movie.